David, we're going to go. We have many, many questions that people have submitted over the last several weeks, months, and in the next hour, 45 minutes or so, I'd like to get through as many of them as possible, but eager to hear your comments. And the first question I want to begin with is from Tori in Beverly Hills, and she says, what is your daily routine before work?
My daily, hello everybody, and it's good to be on this conference call with you, and I understand it was supposed to be a Skype, but I don't have any kind of speedy internet. The things got trashed, and I'm trying to get high-speed internet, but it hasn't happened yet. So my daily routine before I go to work is that I wake up and I brush my teeth, and I use the bathroom. Then I have a cappuccino and some cigarettes. Then I meditate, and then I have either some Amrit nectar or a small smoothie with protein powder and blueberries and peaches, and then I go to work.
Lori writes from Los Angeles, who has had the greatest influence on your writing?
I am not very well read. The writing seems to come from ideas, and the words are meant to capture the idea in such a way that when I read the words, the idea comes back. But I have read some books, and one of them I love is called The Metamorphosis by Franz Kafka. And I also love a book called the Srimad Devi Bhagavatam. Those might be that I can think of. I like a lot of detective novels, but I can't think of an author that I particularly love. But I like detective stories.
Levi in Corvallis, Oregon writes, what were some of your greatest inspirations as a young adult?
I always say my greatest inspiration is the city of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And I don't think I had an original idea until I went to Philadelphia. And it was a time in my life and the city, but the city was, I always say, my biggest inspiration, the city of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Why is that?
Philadelphia was a city that was, in my mind, like a factory city. And it was filthy. It was fear-ridden. It was filled with corruption and insanity. It was like filled with a kind of fear in the air. And I liked also the architecture and the proportions of the rooms, these row houses and factory buildings. I just fell in love with them, and it led me to falling in love with smoke and fire and metal and machines. The sounds that they made in my mind, I would imagine the sounds of factories and factory life and factory people, and it just started a Philadelphia dream. It started a Philadelphia dream and a world that I fell in love with. Hello?
When you were young, when you were a child growing up, Did you see yourself as an artist at the time? Did you, were you a normal kid? Did you play baseball? I know you were a Boy Scout. Or did you always have a leaning towards art, light, creativity?
I was into many, many things, and I did play baseball. And when I lived in Boise, Idaho, the first year I played on a VFW 63, and we came in second place in the baseball, games in the city, in the Little League. And then I was on a team for the next 3 years, I think, Simplot's Fertilizer. And we came in first every year. I played center field or second base.
Were you a good hitter?
I was a good hitter. And I was in the Boy Scouts. I was first in the Cub Scouts, and then I went into the Boy Scouts. And I got older in the Boy Scouts, and Boy Scouts no longer was cool to me. But my dear father wanted me to become an Eagle Scout. And that's why I always say in my biography, David Lynch, born in Missoula, Montana, Eagle Scout. In honor of my dear father, I became an Eagle Scout when I was 14. And I also, I did many things, but one of the things I did from when I was very little is draw, and I love to draw, but I never thought that an adult could do these things. So I've told this story many times, but we moved to Virginia. My father was transferred to Washington, D.C. In Virginia one night when I was in the 9th grade, I met a fellow named Toby Keeler who went to private school. And I was talking to him on the lawn in front of my girlfriend's house, and he happened to mention his father was a painter. At first I thought maybe a house painter, but then he said, no, a fine art painter. A bomb went off in my head, and from that second, all I wanted to do was be a painter.
Leela in Key Biscayne, Florida writes, there seems to be a concept of good and evil. Where do you think that comes from, good and evil? And is this something you explore through TM or your work?
I think everybody knows there's many forces going on out there, and those ones that make us feel good and kind of give us a euphoria or an upliftment are, these good feeling forces, you could say are good, and those that are sort of tearing us apart and filling us with all kinds of negativity and making us sick and giving us headaches and diarrhea, those would be, negative forces. And these two things are swimming, in various combinations all the time in this world. And the thing about meditation is it grows the positive, and by growing the positive, it chases the negative away. And it serves the work and serves the life. So it's a very, very important thing.
And how does your role of TM?
Pardon?
In this? TM, Transcendental Meditation, could you elaborate on that? Exploring it through, exploring good and evil through Transcendental Meditation.
In this world, we are all human beings on the phone, and deep within each one of us is a field. And this field underlies all matter and all mind. And this field is all positive. And it has many names. One of those names is pure consciousness. Another name is being or divine being. Another name is creative intelligence. Another name is, in Vedic language, Atma, meaning the self, with a capital S. And there's a line we've all heard, know thyself. This is that self they're talking about. Another word is Brahm, meaning totality. This self is totality. Another name for this is the kingdom of heaven which lies within. And there's a line everybody's heard, first seek the kingdom of heaven which lies within, and all else will be added unto you. So this is that totality that gets added unto you every time a human being transcends and experiences this big field within, unbounded, eternal, immortal, immutable, infinite field of pure consciousness within every human being, the big treasury. And transcendental meditation is a mental technique brought back for this time by Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, and allows any human being to dive within and experience this field. And every time you transcend and experience this field, you infuse some of that, and you start growing whatever amount of consciousness you had to begin with. And this expanding of consciousness has a side effect. And that side effect is negativity starts to lift away. Things like stress, traumatic stress, anxieties, worries, sadness, depression, hate, anger, fear, need for revenge, all this starts to lift. And people start getting happier. They start getting more ideas. They start getting along better with their fellow man and women. And they start feeling better in their body, their health improves, their outlook on life improves. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. All positive growing and saying goodbye to the negative. Another way to look at it is pure gold coming in from within and garbage going out. It's a real thing, and this is why, we started the David Lynch Foundation, is to give this technique to people who are suffering, but everybody can use this technique. Everybody. The human being has a full potential, and that full potential is called enlightenment. And you gain enlightenment by infusing more and more of this treasury from within. And it's a beautiful, beautiful trip. And every day things get better. So it's money in the bank to, take this technique while it's pure, while it works, and start enjoying life and your work.
I'll just add here, thank you, that's a beautiful answer. If someone is interested in learning transcendental meditation, they can go to tm.org. David, here's a question, different topic. From Leaf in Pembroke Pines, Florida. What got you into making music, specifically electronic?
I always say that Angelo Badalamenti brought me into the world of music. I was always interested in sound. I did play the trumpet when I was young, and I know how to read music, but I never really, was interested in going into the world of music until Angelo Badalamenti. And that was a thrill always to work with Angelo in a studio with great musicians and watching them, play and having a part in shaping that, final, music. But I see how much enjoyment there is playing music, and how music brought all different types of people together in that studio. When they played, they were one with each other. It was so beautiful and thrilling. And I started writing lyrics for Angelo because he goes by lyrics, and the music seems to come out of that. Excuse me. And I just got deeper into it. And another thing happened. I started trying to make some sound effects on electric guitar, and I loved the sound it would make. I played it upside down and backwards. It was not for music. It was for certain sound effects, certain kind of mood things. But it kind of started also going into a certain, type of music, driven mainly by the blues. And then I got the great good fortune of being able to build a sound recording studio and as a place to experiment. So it's a great world of sound and music and experimentation, and it's a world I love to go in.
Thank you. Gulsa from Lindenhurst, New York writes, in this day and age, what would you recommend for young artists to do to get their work out there and noticed?
I would say first start transcendental meditation. It will serve the work, and also what people say is you get more support of nature. You seem to go with more support from Mother Nature. And I would say that the Internet has given birth to many, musical stars. You just got to get your music heard, and the Internet's a great place to give people an opportunity all around the world to hear your stuff. That's one place, and then if you play live, start going around and try to get some, club dates. But I think the Internet is a great place.
Would it have made it your work easier if you were starting off now?
The Internet?
Would it be tougher? Would it have been tougher for you to get noticed today than it did when you started off?
I think the thing about today is there's so many people making music, so many people making films, that it's kind of hard to, pop out of the crowd. And back when I made Eraserhead, it was still very expensive to make a film, and it made the number of filmmakers small, relative to today. So, in a way, the Internet's there for the whole world to hear our things or see our things, but there's a crowd all wanting the same thing. A lot of times, I always say, fate is the thing that plays a huge role. You can have the stuff, you can really have the talent, and you just can't get arrested. It just doesn't make any sense. Or you can have the talent and the stuff, and fate smiles on you, and you can't explain what happens, but you just rise up. And it's a lot to do with fate.
How did fate smile on you, or did fate smile on you?
Fate has smiled on me so much, I can't tell you. There have been times where something comes along, changes my life completely, like the story of talking to Toby Keeler in the front yard of my girlfriend's house. And I won an independent filmmakers grant from the American Film Institute, and it changed my life completely. I got accepted to the Center for Advanced Film Studies out in California, changed my life completely. I was able to make Eraserhead, and it led to making The Elephant Man, which jumped me up. Who can figure these things? It's fate smiling.
Next question. Thank you very much. Next question comes from Luke, and he said, in London, if you could have directed or produced any existing screenplay in history, what would it be and why?
I appreciate many things that have been done, but one thing I would say is that I would have I think, love to be around in the golden age of cinema here in Los Angeles and making films. When cinema was just getting born, it seemed to be a great freedom and discovery, and I think there weren't any rules. It was a free space. Now there's many, many, many rules. Everything costs a lot of money, and it's a little bit different now. But I like catching ideas and falling in love. I love falling in love with an idea. An idea is like a blessing that comes along. Sometimes they come along and you fall in love, just like some girls come along and you fall in love, or some guy comes along, and it's just like that. You fall in love, and then you want to translate that idea to one medium or another. And it's the love of the thing that drives you.
Did you, the next question is coming in just a moment. This is Andrew in Tyngsboro, Massachusetts. As time passes, do you find that characters from your previous works return and speak to you in new ways? If so, any memorable experiences you'd like to share?
The characters that come along are always alive and well in space and time. I sometimes picture some of them. I don't really have a conversation with them, but now with Twin Peaks, some come along and start talking.
There's a lot of questions on meditation that have come in, so I'll ask a couple in a row, and then we'll return to some other questions. Chris from Denville, New Jersey said, when did you begin TM, and did you ever meet the Maharishi?
I started Transcendental Meditation on July 1st, 1973, and I only met Maharishi once in person, and that was in 1975 when he came to the center where I learned to meditate, and I offered him, and he accepted, a red rose. I've been meditating now since that July 1st, 1973, twice a day ever since, and I've never missed a meditation.
Next question from Aaron Copeland, Los Angeles. Has your meditation practice changed over the years?
The technique of transcendental meditation is it's such a beautiful technique. It's a unique form of meditation, and just in case you're curious, it takes about 4 days to learn, about an hour and a half each day, and you're basically taught mantra and how to use it. And the technique is easy and effortless. It is not hard work. It is not forcing anything. It's not concentration nor contemplation. As I said, a unique form of meditation that allows you to dive within and transcend. And transcend is the key word. There are many, many different kinds of meditations out in the world, but they don't give the experience of transcending. They don't allow you to experience that deepest level of life, the eternal level, the unbounded ocean of pure consciousness that does everything good for the human being. What was the next part of that question, Bobby?
Just a moment. Oh, No, has your meditation practice changed over the years?
Yeah, once you learn this technique, the technique stays the same. One of the things they have found is a new meditator, of say a 1 week old meditator, 1 week long meditating meditator, or a 10-year long meditating meditator, their technique is the same. But what they've found with brain research is that when you transcend, the full brain is engaged. The full brain lights up on the EEG machine. And transcending is the only experience that does this. And for a new meditator, that coherence, they call it total brain coherence, that coherence dissipates a little bit pretty fast after you're finished meditating. For a longer time meditator, that coherence stays. More and more stays. The analogy is, if you want to make a white cloth gold, you dip it in the golden dye and hang it up on the line to, in the sun to dry. And the dipping it into the golden dye is transcending, and hanging it on the line in the sunlight is activity. And at the very beginning, the sunlight burns out almost every little bit of gold. Maybe a few little specks stay. So you dip it again and hang it up. You transcend and go into activity. Transcend and go into activity. And little bit by little bit, that white cloth gets more and more gold. And one day you dip it in, you bring it out, and it's just pure gold. It doesn't go away. Same process in meditation. One day you gain higher states of consciousness, and that leads to one day supreme enlightenment, total fulfillment, total liberation, a state described as more than the most, the full potential of the human being. And it's every human being's birthright to one day enjoy supreme enlightenment.
No one talks about this better than you do, David. Another question from Arturo. Has your personal life and experience ever had a heavy influence in some of your films? If so, which ones?
I always say that it's the ideas, and ideas seem to come from somewhere else. And ideas are like thoughts. A thought is an idea is a thought. So these things come up, bubbling up from somewhere, and we don't know the idea until it enters our conscious mind. And when it enters my conscious mind, I always say it's like the light bulb going off in the cartoons. In a cartoon, when someone gets an idea, they have a light bulb go off. It's just like that. Boom, I got an idea, and sometimes that idea is a cinema idea, for instance. And so you write that idea down, and that idea is like a bait that draws in other ideas in the same sort of school, and these things string themselves together, and you get like a script. And then you translate that to cinema. In the translation, there's something about each of us has a kind of a mechanism, and the ideas do pass through our own mechanism as they're being translated to one medium or another. So we color the idea. We color the idea in some way, but for me, it really doesn't have anything to do with my personal life. I don't set out to try to show something that's happened to me or show something that I want to, say to people. I just fall in love with ideas, and then I want to translate them. It's like you get an idea for a chair, you want to build a chair. You want to sit in the chair. You want to be able to look at it and sit in it. It's just like that for all the other things. Or you want to be able to just get an idea to get you out of a chair to go paint. And then for me, it's a flow of ideas, action and reaction, action and reaction, action and reaction, and the painting starts evolving and coming into being. it's nothing to do with my personal life.
We have time, I hope, for about 12 more minutes, 15 more minutes of questions, and I know you have to go meditate. I'm here working, David. This is just the most wonderful interview. I'm working with a young woman here at the David Lynch Foundation, Maddie, who just came into the office and said, David Lynch is just so cool. So this is really
Get her
great,
number.
David. Just call the David Lynch Foundation in New York. You can talk to her. My next question is, and then we're going to come back to a little bit again to meditation. We're going back and forth. Shauna in Chicago says, how do women inspire you in your creative process, and who have been your greatest female influences?
Whoa. It's too bad we only have 15 more minutes. I think just the idea of a woman is so inspiring. I think thinking about women is so inspiring. And I love the form of a woman. I love the mystery of a woman. I just love them so much. And they make me dream. I think women are very, very special. And I think, generally speaking, they're much more honest than men. They're much more caring about the human, beings. In a way, they're much more likely to bring peace on earth. They're very much like poets. They seem to be very caring and very nice to be around. I really, really like women.
Next question, and then we'll go a few more on meditation. Zachary in Rome, Georgia, says, some of your work seem to take place in the same universe. What is the central idea that binds this universe together?
I sort of know what you mean, but for instance, Eraserhead, there's a world in my mind. There's a world, and as I said, it's inspired by the city of Philadelphia, but then it became different, really. But it is a world, and when I was working on Eraserhead, being inside a set, I could feel and imagine the world outside those walls. It's a beautiful world to me, an industrial world filled with all kinds of possibilities, and I really like that feeling. I think that every film has the world that you see in the film, but if you sit in those rooms, you can imagine a whole world outside that goes with that film. A whole world. It could have many, many stories in the feeling of that time and that town of Lumberton in Blue Velvet. You could go in many, many different places in that and meet different people. It's a whole world that's bigger than what you see in the film. But it's not, and then there's this thing of the unified field, this field within that modern science, quantum physics, called the unified field, the unity of all the particles and forces in manifestation, in creation. So everything is united at that deepest level, and there is a thing of unity floating around that could unify, all the different worlds. And that's interesting to think about sometimes.
Christian, since this phone call with you, which you've been very generous to spend your time with us, was a fundraiser to help support your foundation, the David Lynch Foundation. What was the original purpose of the foundation, and are you satisfied, or how it is today?
The original purpose is in the name. It's the David Lynch Foundation for Consciousness-Based Education and World Peace. So, consciousness-based education is, say, the kids go to school, and the school would be very similar to the schools that they go to now, with the addition of diving within every day, transcendental meditation in the morning and then in the evening before they leave school. And what's been found is that the fighting stops in the school when the students are meditating, their grades go up, relationships improve between the students and between the students and the teachers. The teachers stop getting teacher burnout. The principal is smiling in his office. Everything seems to be filled with bliss, all the rooms, and it's a different school because the people are diving within, transcending, infusing that all positive bliss, energy, love, creativity, intelligence, and peace. It changes everything. Schools today, a huge amount of them are hellholes, metal detectors, fights, illegal drugs, legal drugs, teacher burnout, a pathetic, absurd joke. Nothing is getting accomplished. It's a hellhole. It's like a prison. All you need to do is give the students themselves, let them unfold their full potential. Let them start getting happy. Let them start enjoying life and watch what happens. It's so much common sense. Give them this technique and let them stop suffering and enjoy life. That's one reason we started the foundation, for students, to get the students transcendental meditation so they could start enjoying life. This field within is a field of peace. Deep, deep, deep contentment. Doesn't make you want to sit under a tree and make you so calm you don't want to work. It just makes you feel very, very thickly good inside. Very, very good. The world looks better. Everything starts looking very, very friendly and good. And this thing of peace, the only thing that's going to bring peace to this world is the enlivening of that field within by peace-creating groups, people trained in higher techniques of transcendental meditation and the TM City program. They can enliven this field so powerfully that it affects collective consciousness. Peace treaties, these talks, this, mainly bullshit, isn't going to bring real peace. Real peace is the absence of negativity. When you have real peace, it's unity in the midst of diversity. All diversity is appreciated fully in the light of unity, in the light of peace. This is a real thing. Support Maharishi's peace-creating groups. There's groups established now in several places in the world. They're not big enough. They have to be established to be big enough. The magic number is the square root of 1% of a population. A very small number, but they have to be set up on a permanent basis. Help set up these groups. They're like lighthouses of peace. They pump this peace and bliss into the collective consciousness, into the atmosphere, changes everything. As I say, a man goes to bed filled with anger and wakes up and wonders where it went. It's just like what happens to the individual when they get this technique, but it happens on the big collective consciousness scale. Real peace is a real possibility, and it just needs the enlivening of this deepest level, which is unbounded, infinite peace, and it just comes up, and things get very, very good.
Well, I want to thank you very, very much, David, for spending 45 minutes with us, answering these questions. There were dozens and dozens and dozens more, but you gave us a very lovely and true insight into your thinking about meditation, about creativity, about art, about women, about Maddie here at the David Lynch Foundation office, and we're very, very grateful. And I want to conclude by, again, thanking everyone for contributing to be on this call, because your money is going to help inner city school kids learn to meditate. It's going to help learn transcendental meditation, going to help veterans who are suffering from post-traumatic stress learn to meditate, and women and children who have been survivors of domestic violence, and all together enlivening that field of unity, helping to transform a world from within. The theme of David's foundation is change begins within. And so all of you contributed greatly tonight, and we're very, very thankful for that. I'd also like to thank CrowdRise for partnering with us to get the word out. And I'd also like to, again, thank Austin Iyer for pulling this together. So thank you very much, David. Have a good meditation.
I wish you all the very best. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and thank you all for calling in. Bye-bye.
Bye.